Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Yop Sessions with Anne. If you're new here, my name is Anne, and this podcast is exactly what it sounds like. Real conversations, experiences, just a lot of yapping about life and things that nobody talks about. In today's episode, I'll be joined by Marie, and we'll be talking about what it's like to show up as your full self in different places, such as work, organizations, and social places. So tell us about yourself and what you do.
So I'm Marie. Some people call me Christine, like Anne, my cousin calls me Christine. I'll start professionally and I'll go personal. So I'm a director at a global Fortune 500 company, pharmaceutical company specifically, and I oversee a team that does HR technology. So essentially, we find new technologies, implement them, sustain them for processes behind HR, whether that's compensation, benefits, payroll. So that's professional. On the personal end, I am a mom. I have two boys, an almost 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. I'm also a stepmom. I have a stepdaughter who's going to be 15 next week. I've been married for 10 years. I'm an immigrant. I'm of Haitian descent. I was born in Haiti. I've been in America since I was 12. And then as far as I guess what's important to me, I would say it's growth. I think that's kind of a lifelong thing for me. I tend to be a perfectionist, and growth is a big thing where I would just want to be better at everything, whether it's a mom, health, work, entrepreneurship, whatever it is. Growth is a big part of my life.
Okay, that's good. So you said you're a director in HR where you guys oversee like technology and things like that. What do you think is a misconception that people have about HR? I mean, I know personally, I think about HR as a like the company police or hiring and firing.
Yeah. I think there's two camps. There's a lot of people that think like you, that we're the feds, and where it's all about protecting the company, which it's part of that is true, right? We are there to protect the company, and then there's another camp that thinks we're there to resolve all their issues, whether it's issues with their managers, other employees, their career advancement. And that's also true. The way I think of it is kind of in the middle. I think HR is there to protect the company, but we do that by taking care of the employees. So that means having fair policies, clear policies, having fair processes that are compliant, making sure that we have leaders that are going to be accountable for their decisions and have consistent decision making. So in a way, that's why I think it's both, because we have to have those things in place that protect the employees. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to protect the company, right?
Yeah.
So we're not the feds. I think we're in the middle. We're in the middle.
As a Black woman and an immigrant, what unexpected challenges did you face, whether it is, now or just in corporate in general?
I think it's a mixture of things. And a lot of them were driven by my own insecurities. Some could say based on society.
Yeah.
Some of them were also external. Like I think about when I first started my career, hair was a big thing for me. So I wanted to be natural even in college, and I didn't have the courage to do it in college. And I decided to do it right when I started corporate America, which was a bold decision. And now I don't know if that was the smartest time. I was working for a company there were not people that looked like me. I was in consulting. I was one of the only Black people. No one, even the ones that I saw didn't have natural hair. It wasn't as prevalent as it is now. So for the first 2 years, I wore my hair in a bun every single day at work. It became a joke where coworkers would say, "Oh, Marie's brain power is in her bun," because I was known for this bun, big bun. And then so it was something I was proud of in my personal life, very insecure about at work. And even coming from the background, I come from a more conservative family and more traditional family. So they also didn't understand, where they were like, what do you mean you're going to wear your hair out at work? Like, you're going to have what? Braids? Like I don't understand what you're doing. So that also, I think, pushed my insecurities. And then there were a lot of things when I was early on that I laughed that I probably shouldn't have. Like when I started wearing my hair out, I had a coworker throw little pieces of paper at my hair because he was fascinated that it stayed in my hair.
How many years ago was that?
Probably like 10 years.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because now that would not pass.
It would not have passed now, but then I actually laughed about those things.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't take offense, and I think part of it was me wanting to fit in, to be honest. like they named my hair. They named my hair Sabrina because I would try different styles when I finally got comfortable with it. So it became this joke that Marie's hair has its own body and entity that's separate from Marie.
Yeah.
So all those things happen. So, but I think that I took that insecurity and I did embrace that identity of myself. So then it became, I think, part of my story. Something I became proud of. In 2026, those stands would be completely inappropriate.
Oh yeah.
But then I did laugh at them and I embraced them. I'm not gonna lie, I did embrace them.
Yeah.
Another part for me another struggle for mine was age. I grew in my career very quickly and some people think I look young. So I've been in
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing, but it can be very insecure in corporate America.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when I came to my current company, I'm a director and I came in as a director, but there's people, many levels below me in the organization that are much older than me. And I will say in my current organization, no one has ever talked about my age or made any comments, but I brought insecurities from my prior company with me because, I went to workshops. I remember I was in a workshop in Europe and I was leading the workshop and I took a break. During a break, a client asked me a question. I got on my computer to show him something. And he was like, "Oh, you actually know how to do this stuff? I thought you were just a cute face they put in front of the client." That happened. Or I had another client flat out ask me how old I was in a workshop. I had some people at my company that were more senior tell me things like they were not comfortable with me leading a project because I looked too young. And it would be hard to kind of get the client to accept me and trust me. So those are things that I think were pushed onto me, but I did impact the way that I viewed myself.
Yeah.
And did make me very insecure. Just being a woman in corporate America was another challenge. Pretty early on, I was told I have to smile more. And I did take that, and I do smile a lot more, I will say, but I was told that. And looking back at it, I'm sure my male counterparts would not have gotten that message.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that I think society pushes onto us as women, as Black women. And especially when you're just starting out, it's hard to listen to your own voice and not take things in.
That's true.
Yeah.
And even like going back to the hair thing, even for me until now, I think like I have a pretty good level of confidence. But every time I go to work and I have a new hairstyle, I'm in my head. Like, and it could be straight, it could be even like this, right? Because having like straight hair is sort of the more accepted type of hair. But because when I started my job, I always had my natural hair. I remember the first time I had braids, I was like, oh my God, I was stressing. Like, it's like, it doesn't even matter, I think, how confident you are. But because we're, I guess, the only group that consistently change our hair, it's always going to be a thing.
I agree.
And then one thing that I noticed is they're quicker to give you compliments when your hair is straight versus when it's natural. Because that's what I experienced. And I noticed that. I know I got like a silk press twice while I was at my company. And those are the only times I got compliments. And then when I got this, I have braids, nothing. I have my hair out. And I think you can feel sometimes, and maybe it's like intuition when people are uncomfortable, like they don't know what to say. Especially, I have a lot of hair. So when I go out and I have my afro, I can tell like people
uncomfortable a little bit.
Uncomfortable and like something wants to be said, but they're not going to say it. So I totally relate to that. And even going back to like when I was in school and I had my internship, I actually used to wear a bun all the time too. Because it's like, it's a thing. Like you think about that a lot.
So I've actually never worn my hair straight at work since I started working. So that's interesting that you said that you feel like you get more compliments. I feel like I've gotten compliments in my hair. Usually though, it's from probably younger generations or other Black women.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so other Black women definitely will compliment me on my hair or whatever. I usually don't get it from other races.
Yeah.
But I can also relate to the braids thing because, like, if it's when I'm going on vacation and I get braids, when I go back to work, I usually get very insecure about it.
Yeah.
And I'll either take the braids out or I'll put them like in a bun.
Yeah.
To the point I have a coworker who's a white male and he's a lot older. And whenever he sees me on camera with my braids, he's like, vacation hair.
That's crazy. That's crazy, actually.
Because the hair is a thing in the Black community. It is.
Yeah.
Even though being natural, I think, has been becoming more accepted over the years, it's still very much a minority in America. So.
Even if it's like you being in your head, it's just still a thing, I feel like.
And I think it will be probably for a long time.
Yeah. And then another thing I was thinking about, I don't know if your experience is different, but I know you moved here when you were 12, but something that I experienced is my accent. Oh my God. Because it's like one thing to be like Black in America, but I also think it's another thing to be an immigrant or growing up in another country, having an accent, and people not understanding you. So I feel like when I first started, not even my job, but school here, I was so insecure to speak up because I'm like, I have an accent, people can't understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And, you know, little things such as like raising your hands in class, like your hand in class, you just don't want to do that. So I don't know if you experienced that. Maybe you did it in the same way.
When I first came, I think I did when I was younger because I came here younger than you were when you came, but I came in 8th grade. So yes, I was very shy. I was very scared to talk to anyone because one, my English wasn't that great, and I also had an accent. And because I had an accent, the first thing people always ask, where are you from?
Yeah.
That was always the first
Yeah.
question. And then for me, it was always interesting because I think people always try to guess where I was from because they thought I maybe looked Hispanic or I looked half Black. And I would try to tell them at the time when I first moved to America, I related a lot more to my nationality than my ethnicity. So I would say I'm Haitian. Like that's what I was.
Yeah.
And I lived in I lived in a town that was predominantly white, where people would be like, Hades or Asia? Like, what do you mean Haitian? Like, what is that? And I would have to explain where that is, kind of even what ethnicity we were, because they didn't understand, okay, you say you're from Haiti, but like, are you Black? Are you Spanish? Like what are you?
That's funny because
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the thing I think earlier on. I think by the time I got to college, my accent had changed dramatically and probably been in corporate America. So I got that a lot less. But I could totally see that being a thing of insecurity for sure.
Yeah.
That's just another thing on top of
being Black.
else.
Yeah. Because it can be like people who look like you and they're like, you know, what is Haiti? Like, do you guys have bathrooms? Do you guys have phones? I used to get
people tell me like, what is Haitian? Like,
Yeah.
what is Haiti?
Yeah.
Like, I've had Black
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
not know what that is. So completely. I remember I had a coworker, who didn't realize I was Black. And he was from India, like meaning like he was recently from India. And when I told him, we were talking about an issue that happened at a client site. There was a very racist thing that happened, so we were all talking about it. And in that, he realized I was Black. And he's like, "What do you mean you're Black?" And I was like, "I'm Black."
Yeah.
Like, but you're not Black. Like your skin's not Black.
Yeah.
And then we got into this whole conversation around like why I'm still Black, even though my skin is not Black.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all like the different layers that we deal with as immigrants, Black women. Yeah, in those spaces.
Interesting. Do you ever feel like you need to adjust how you speak, how you act, depending on the rooms that you're in? And if so, how do you learn when and where to do what?
Yes. And I think it looks different now than it did when I first started. I know when I first started my career, it's actually even before my career, even in school, I definitely code switched.
Yeah.
I remember being where I lived. I never really wanted people to come to my house, and that was part of my code switching because I didn't really want people to understand kind of where I came from because I felt like I couldn't really relate to anyone else.
Yeah.
And then in the workplace, you know, that meant things like changing my hair, making sure my hair was always in a bun and a way.
Yeah.
Speaking a certain way, smiling more because I needed to be more likable as a woman. But I felt like earlier on, because I wasn't as secure in who I was, especially not in the workplace, I wasn't as secure. It was more at a place of insecurity and minimizing myself. First, I think now I do still do it, but I think now it's a lot more intentional.
Yeah.
Where I think I've matured, I've grown, I'm a lot more comfortable in who I am as a person. Bit more strategic where I pick and choose who gets to see which layers of me.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's a weakness. I think that can be a strength, right? The way I explain something to my 4-year-old is different than when I explain something to my husband.
Yeah.
And I think in a way you can say that's code switching, but that's just reality.
Yeah.
So I do think there is a part of us we have to learn. So we have to be able to recognize the space that we're in and adjust, but that doesn't mean you change who you fundamentally are. So I don't expect your perspective to change, your morals to change, your values should still be the same, but you kind of have to be in tune with what are you willing to let other people know about you or see about you within that space.
Yeah.
Because it's also a way to protect yourself.
Yeah. I agree. And I also think, like you said, like there's a time and place for everything. And I think I was having that conversation with one of my other cousins, actually. We were talking about like what is not Black culture, but what is really being yourself, because a lot of times people see us as loud, obnoxious, but how do you define really being obnoxious with what's your culture or what's, being yourself? You know what I mean? Because I know, for instance, and I know probably a lot of Black families, or family is really loud.
Yeah.
So it's just, like, but again, it's like time and place. You go to different things and there's like a tone where where like you need to,
Yeah, you
slow
gotta,
down.
yes.
So I don't think it's like about, because a lot of people think it is sometimes code switching, but sometimes it is time and place, because I know probably other ethnic groups, they have to adjust. Maybe not as much as us when it comes to hair and stuff like that, but the way we speak, the way we dress, and going to corporate places, like that's something that I see a lot and I think about a lot, is how people show up at work. And sometimes I'm just like, there's a time and place for everything. And then that's any race, if you want to call it, and gender. I feel like, for instance, if you're working at a bank and it's very professional, it's very suit, why do you have like a short dress? You know what I mean? So we have to differentiate culture, place, and identity. And like you said, it's really important to know who you are at core and know when and where to adjust this. So why do you think a lot of Black women have to read the room, or Black people in general have to read the room before showing up as themselves?
Yeah, I think it's because of all the stereotypes, right? I think there's been so many stereotypes about Black women, whether that means we're loud, we're aggressive, much, we're too sassy, and we're all aware of that. And although we've come a long way, I do think that like we're still striving to fight past those stereotypes.
Yeah.
So I think it's a matter, at least for me, it's a matter of like again knowing where I am and which parts of myself I'm willing to show in that space. It's not to say that I don't want to show up fully. Like I can be loud.
Yeah.
Right? I know I can be loud. And there's a time and a space for me to be loud.
Like we said,
But when I'm speaking maybe to my team about something, I don't want to come across as loud because that's just not the time to be loud.
yeah.
So I think as Black women, we have to be very intentional because of all the stereotypes. And I also think society, to be honest, has just made almost Black people as almost caricatures in a way.
Yeah.
Where it's almost like the extremes of our culture that tend to be shown and to be shown as kind of like this is how as a brush representation of all of us. So there's a lot of us, in my opinion, that are now trying to fight that narrative a little bit, like embrace some parts of it, because some parts of it are what they are, right? I do think I'm very animated, I'm sassy, I have a little bit of attitude, but I'm not, aggressive. I'm not necessarily some of the other terms that people like to throw onto Black women. So I do think it's smart for us to actually do that. I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think it's just finding the balance of still being true to who you are, but also having emotional intelligence to know what to adjust and where. And also to just protect yourself.
Yeah.
I think it can do you a disservice. Be your fully layered self in every single space. Because that will lead in heartbreak and hurt for you. Because you're not establishing boundaries and you're letting people in and having certain levels of access to your vulnerability that maybe they don't deserve.
Yeah. And it's funny because in my first episode, I talked about like building relationship with your coworkers. And I mentioned setting boundaries. You need to build those relationships, but setting boundaries. Like sometimes I'll see people at work discussing their love life, their like details about their love life, their breakups, like every single thing. And I feel like for us, I don't know. Do you think like it's the same? Like, is it necessary that we go that deep? Because like you said, I feel like when people do go that deep, sometimes it's a disadvantage of saying too much.
I'm an outlier where I will say it's okay. It depends as long as you are intentional. So I don't think I'm an oversharer. I've been an oversharer my whole life, and I'm still an oversharer. Okay, but I do think as I've grown, I've learned that my husband drills this in my head. Not everybody needs to know everything. Have I overshared at work? 1,000%. However, I pick and choose who's willing to know that part of me.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a conversation for everybody. It's not a conversation around the table at lunch where I'm talking to everybody about what I'm going through. But there are certain people that I have direct relationships with that I feel more open to share that with. Because I do also think, because I've seen the opposite as well, where sometimes when you are a Black person in corporate America and you're too closed off and too guarded, you're not able to build those authentic relationships and people view you differently.
Yeah.
And then that can actually impede your progress.
Yeah, I agree.
Workplace.
Yeah.
So you have to find the balance of being able to be authentic enough and relate and at least find certain people that you can be authentic with.
Yeah.
Without necessarily sharing
Every single thing.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree. So, what kind of places do you think Black women can fully be themselves? I know we talked about different versions, but that could be outside of work. What is, at least for you, a place where you feel like fully like relief? Like,
Yeah.
it's just.
So I think at the very broad level, it's anywhere that you don't really have to explain yourself. Anywhere that you can truly, like I can start saying a sentence and the person just kind of knows where it's going and they can relate. I think what I've learned as I've gotten older is that there's not one place that will fully let me excel for every part of who I am.
Yeah.
And I say that because like I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a Black woman in corporate America, I'm an immigrant here, I'm an entrepreneur. And a lot of times all of these different facets of me don't fully intersect.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have multiple spaces that you can exhale.
Yeah.
For me, what that could look like in motherhood, for example, I have mom groups that might be across different ethnicities, but we just share the same values in motherhood. We are dealing with the same issues. We want to show up the same way as mothers. Then I might have other spaces that are strictly for maybe Black mothers raising Black sons in non-diverse neighborhoods.
Yeah.
That's my reality. And that's something that is very important to me. And maybe that's even broader than mothers. That could be just Black parents in general.
Yeah.
It's another space maybe that can exhale that part of me. And at work, that might look like I'm part of our Black employee resource group about those type of issues, but I'm also part of the women's network.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, because there's women issues that transcend ethnicity.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to just find different spaces that will cater to different parts of you. And I think those spaces can and should change as you grow.
Yeah.
Because you'll have different parts of your identity that maybe are more prevalent at that time and that you need to exhale from.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I think at the root of it, there's not one single place that will probably cater to every part of who you are, but it's about finding at least a handful where you can truly be who you are and you can relate to others.
Yeah. And one thing to add to that, I think something that I see a lot sometimes, like we talk a lot about diversity and inclusion, but I think diversity is also important for us, like in terms of like when we go to organizations, we go to social places, we go to school, we go to work, we're always looking for people to look like us. And sometimes it's good to not have people who look like you because diversity is as good for us that it is for, corporate white America. You know what I mean? Like, and I know even for networking, that's really important. Just finding things that you like to do and just connecting with people from that. You can like golfing, playing tennis, and you find a white woman who likes to play tennis, a white man. It doesn't matter. And that helps you build your relationships and just networking, period. So I think
1,000%.
that's really important when it comes to identity. Your identity should not only be your race. Your race is important. Your nationality is important, but also trying to connect in other parts of yourself to quote unquote free yourself, I want to call it. So
I completely agree. Honestly, so this is probably shunned on. At work, I'm the one, I love to talk politics. Now, I pick and choose what I talk politics about because there's some people that I know it can get rowdy with. But I love hearing, for example, there's another white woman, she's another director, and she is more politically aligned with me, but her background is very different. So like her family structure is different. Her family's views are very different. And they're one of my favorite conversations to have. Whenever something happens on the news, I'm like, are you gonna be in the office? Because I want to talk about lunch. And I love to hear like what her dad thinks about this, what her mom thinks about this. Because honestly, I also think it informs me with my views. And I think that's probably a lot of what's missing these days in the US. We're a very diverse nation, but we're very segregated. Yeah. And we segregate ourselves. Yeah. In a lot of ways. Yeah. And it's not just Black people. Yeah. It's a lot of people. Yeah. All ethnicity, I feel like, they stick to what they know and to themselves. And I think we do ourselves a big disservice in that. And it prevents us from seeing the other side a lot of times. Yeah. And then you have all these extreme views happening all over the place as a result. Yeah. So I completely agree with you. I think it's important to acknowledge all parts of your identity, and it's not just about race. It's a big part, but it definitely shouldn't be the only thing.
What is something that you wish you understood about self-identity younger in your life?
That I'm enough. It's not something that I feel like I accept yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think mentally I accept it, but not at my core. I still have to remind myself.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm a perfectionist, like I said before, and in every place, I'm always striving to be like the best mom, the best wife, the best worker, the best everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's still fine, but I think at the same time, I wish I did back then, and even now, understood that even if I'm not maybe where I want to be, I'm still enough right now. Because I think that a lot of our insecurities stem from us not feeling like we're enough.
Yeah.
Or we should be doing more. We should be better at this. That, to me, that's the root of all of our insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
So I do wish that I could be more something that's just ingrained in me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. And I think it took me a while to even realize that I had to tell myself that I'm enough.
Yeah.
So at least now I'm on the journey of I can tell myself you're enough when I'm feeling insecure. But it's still, by probably my 20s, I wasn't even telling myself that.
Yeah.
But I want to get to a place where it's just kind of a skill that I've learned and it's just ingrained and I don't even have to remind myself anymore. I just feel it. You know?
Mm-hmm. That's funny. So again, like, not to say you're way too older than me, but I think with my friends, we discuss how, like, we talked about imposter syndrome when we first started a job, and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on. Like, do I deserve to be there? So you think that's probably also related, right? And then also
100%.
being like, as you grow older, I want to say, like, it's still a ongoing thing.
It's an ongoing thing. And honestly, I think it's good because I think when you have imposter syndrome or when you are uncomfortable, it's usually a sign that you're growing because you're in a place of discomfort. And I'm a huge believer that to grow, you have to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But no, it never goes away. I think even if it quiets down,
Yeah.
it might look different now than it did 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely still have it, you know? And I don't expect it to completely be gone. I just hope the time is quicker before when I can switch and be comfortable and be authentic.
Okay.
Like I remember when I first got to my current job, I had a lot of imposter syndrome. And again, it was very much self-induced because I was significantly younger than like all of my peers. And I still am. And there was one person specifically that he intimidated me. He was like a PhD. He's more senior than me, but I would meet with him all the time. And I saw myself just getting so uncomfortable around him that I would get so quiet. And it was so not me. At work, I'm very bubbly. I'm usually, you know, the sassy, small lady walking around. But with him, I would just be so quiet. And I remember after acknowledging that, I was like, you know what, I'm going to set up a one-on-one. And I just set up a one-on-one with him. And I was like, you intimidate me. So I want to get to know you on a more like human level because I don't like how I show up in meetings with you. I was very vulnerable. I didn't know how I was gonna go. But he like softened and he was like, what? I think you're the smartest person I know. And then we like started talking and it helped me show up differently when I'm around him because we're able to connect like on a human level. But yes, imposter syndrome still happens.
Yeah.
It doesn't ever go away, I don't think.
That's crazy because even like going back to my experience, I remember every internships I have, every organizations I've been a part, I always felt like I was the smartest in the room. Sometimes they say it's not, I don't want to say they say it's not good, but it's like you said, it's good to feel like an imposter, but I always was confident. It doesn't matter like the places. And then again, I got to this job, my first full-time offer. Oh my God. That goes back to imposter syndrome. But I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. I don't know if I belong here.
You're
like,
going to find out I'm not smart as I am.
Right. And then again, like going back to imposter syndrome, it's like, no, you're here because you deserve to be there. Right. And then, especially for people who are as junior as me, they don't expect you to know everything, but they see something in you that makes them want to, you know, be here. So it's like you should embrace that and feed into that. So yeah. Okay. Do you have any advice for, I know you're like way older than me and people might.
I'm not that much older than you. Let's be honest.
Okay, not that older, but any advice? I mean, I'll take some too, like for people just starting their career, or a few years in their career, like when it comes to identity, when they don't know how to navigate, they're struggling.
Yeah. I think for me, it's really taking the time to learn yourself. I feel like everything else stems up from learning yourself. So that means knowing what your boundaries are. What are your values? What's important to you? What maybe doesn't matter to you? Might matter to other people. For you, it's not an issue. Really knowing that. Because I think when you're really rooted in who you are, you're able to be a lot more confident. And subsequently you show up more authentically.
Yeah.
Because you're confident in who you are. So to me, that's the biggest thing. I think when you think about your 20s, it should be about completely discovery, whether that's professional, personal. It should be about really truly learning who you truly are.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's when you like. So I'm a huge fan of therapy. Everybody knows me. I'm always like, go to therapy. Everybody should be in therapy.
I think so too.
Just like you go to, your annual doctor's visit, go to a therapist. Because I think that also helps you learn who you are. To be honest, having those conversations, digging deeper, just helps you figure out who you are.
Who you are.
And I think that's the root of everything else.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. And just remember, showing up as your full self does not mean you need to be everything to everyone. It's all about how confident you are and being in places where you feel safe enough to expand. If you really enjoyed this, show some love, like, comment, and I'll see you in the next Yap session.